Now we're going to transition to the wonderful conversation of insurance, which I know is very prevalent in front of mind for many folks. And I'll welcome up Lori, who's from the Arizona Department of Insurance and Financial Institutions.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Munn, and I am the Deputy Director of Insurance for the state of Arizona. Just a little background before I get started. I just recently joined the department. I've been there since May. Prior to that, I was with several insurance carriers and a national advisory organization. So I'm new to the position as a role of a regulator, and I can definitely relate to both sides, being on both sides of my career. So I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about DIFI, which is the Department of Insurance and Financial Institutions. You know, if you know anything in insurance, we love acronyms, so you'll hear a lot of acronyms if you're dealing with insurance. So DIFI is what we call ourselves. And I want to talk a little bit or start a little bit about the regulatory authority that the department has, especially over rate filings. So we have limited authority based on the statutes on rate filings that come in from insurance carriers here in the state of Arizona. Our current statutory rate filing statute is a use and file statute. And what that means is rates can be put into use immediately by a carrier, and they have 30 days to submit those rates to the department for review. The only authority we really have over those rates is to make sure they're not excessive, inadequate, or unfairly discriminatory. So we can review those rates based on those three stipulations that are cited in the statute, which, as you know, gives us very limited authority. What I'm going to show you next is a little diagram that kind of shows how the director can review those rates to see if they are if there's a competitive market and if those rates might be in excess. So basically, the chart's pretty explanatory. They can come in, she'll look at them, she'll review, engage, and look at the lines of business to see what the market shares are. And if everything looks in line, then it'll be determined a competitive market. If for some reason they're determined that there is some skew in the market competition, then it can go to the director, who she'll then have some hearings or place some orders into effect. But the statute's listed there if you want to look it up, but it's basically the only authority that we currently have over the review of rates from a carrier when they come into the department. So next I'm going to talk a little about premium trends nationally and just in the state of Arizona, just to give you an idea of where we compare nationally across Arizona and the rest of the nation. So, I don't know, I guess I'll start here. So there are several factors that influence the rates and the availability in the state. Basically, increases in severity and number of natural disasters, the inflation or higher home rates, and in the past when we've done this presentation, we've also addressed auto, because auto is also an issue, as well as the homeowner's insurance. So in looking at that, you know, over the past few years, especially since COVID in the state of Arizona, home prices have really escalated, and that does have an impact on the rates. Underwriting restrictions, the coverage types, limits, and deductibles, what you actually have on your policy, what your limits are, and the what deductibles you have on your policy all have an impact on your rates. And we wanted just to note that there are some decreases happening in rates, and those are in the work comp area. So since this chart here kind of gives a graph of HO3, which is the majority of the insurance policies being written in the homeowners area in the state. And the graph shows from 2018 to 2021, that the average rate increase is approximately 9% in Arizona. So if you look at it based on the national trends is 13%. So we're pretty much in line with where the trends are going nationally here in the state. We're not seeing anything exuberant in the state at the moment. These, and we have gotten some current data that is reflective of these same points here on the graph. We're not seeing much change from 21 to the 23 and moving into 24. And I'm just going to go here on the construction costs. So one of the things that is driving rates up as well is the increase in construction costs. And like I said, home values are going up, but since COVID, what we've seen in the market is items like labor and materials have also increased dramatically. And if you look at this chart, it'll show you that over the within the last 5 years nationally, they've increased about 30%. And the average reconstruction cost for residential structures in Arizona has gone up about 6% since prior. And we really did see this with COVID and the lack of resources coming in, especially around the building materials. So that is something that we're looking at, and definitely that it has been one of the causes for the increases, especially when there's claims and the rebuild has to happen. One of the things we are seeing, though, is that is improving a bit. Construction costs are coming down. The materials a little bit are coming down, so we're hoping that that helps to offset some of the rates. So here's issues facing homeowners today, and especially in our state. Homeowner insurance, and I know this has been a topic, I think, this morning as well, that premiums are increasing, and it's not just in the wildfire-prone areas. We're seeing increases across the state. Again, it's due to some of those things that I indicated, where homes are being built, the lack of labor and construction, mitigation efforts that may or may not be happening are all driving these increases. We are seeing some non-renewals by insurers, and that there are some areas struggling to find insurance. Over the last few months, I've been going out and talking to county supervisors and to insurers, and hearing what's happening in the marketplace. And it is concerning, but we are not at an area or at a peak yet in Arizona, like California or some of the states that you hear in the news. We are concerned, and definitely rates are going up, and we're seeing non-renewals. We're even seeing some non-renewals in the Phoenix urban areas. But again, it's not to that critical point where we're seeing insurers leaving the state or not doing any kind of, offering any kind of coverage at all. So that is one positive to this. Mortgage affordability and availability, that's another thing that's driving some of the issues here. Again, home values increase, people can't afford it, mortgages are not, they're hard, because they can't find insurance, they're getting, having issues trying to get mortgages. And then I know it was spoke of earlier that people in those wildfire areas, once there's a fire, we are seeing the floods. And what's happening is, one of the things that I've been stressing or going across and talking about is consumer education on what is in your policy. Because people don't really know what's in their policy until they have a claim and it's too late. So one of the things I'm really stressing is that people need to talk to their agents or talk to their insurance company prior to purchasing that insurance. I think in today's world, everyone just goes online, Googles insurance, and looks for the cheapest policy. And then when you have a claim, you're either not insured to value, you don't have the coverage, or people assume flood's included in your policy. Flood is not included in your base HO3 policy. So consumer education is a big piece of this. And knowing and talking to someone prior to purchasing your insurance is really important, because if you do that and talk to the company, if you're in a fire area or you know that you're in an area with a high risk, talk to the companies that you're looking at and say, what can I do to help bring my premiums down, or what do you recommend? People don't do that enough these days, and then that's why we're seeing a lot of the issues that we're seeing. So some other factors, especially here in the state, is where we're building. We're building in the areas where maybe we shouldn't be building in, and maybe we need to take a look at building codes and where buildings should be going up and where they're not. And also the fire protection services. Do we have enough enough fire resources in those areas where we know that we need them? So that's something that I think, we're thinking about, we're looking at, and hopefully, we want to work with the communities and the carriers to try and come up with some solutions. So this graph just shows some of the areas in our state where there's more focus, especially where structures are at a higher or extreme risk for wildfire. So you can see that the counties that are in the redder areas are the high concentration of structures that are in the extreme risk zones, and you can see there's quite a few counties there that are affected in our state. So the other thing that is prevalent, I should say, in the insurance area is the lack of data. There really is not the amount of data that we need or that we have available up until this point to really dive in and look at where the problems lie, the granular data. So recently, the NAIC did a data call, and they actually, it was a national call, so all states participated, and it basically it equated to about 80% of the market for HO3. And it's going to be very granular data. The data has been coming in. We expect those reports to be out by the end of this year. They are down to zip code level, so we're not getting data as address level specifically, but we are able to get that zip code level to see if the reports that we have, like the graph I showed you previously, is current based on what we're getting from the insurers on the data that's being collected on the claims that's happening in these, especially wildfire areas. So again, we're very excited to be able to get this data. It's going to be a start, but it won't be, we are going to need to start building and making sure that we're collecting a lot more granular data to be able to analyze and reflect on what needs to be done in some of these high-risk areas. So again, the data and the lack of data is another issue. I wanted to point out some resources that we've been working on at the department. If you go to our webpage, and I'm just curious, how many folks in the room have been on the department's webpage? Oh, more than usual. Usually nobody raises their hand, and so we're trying to actually get a little more traffic to the website and put some more relevant information out there for you all. So we did just recently wrote a white paper on why are my homeowners insurance increasing, and if you haven't had a chance to go out, I encourage you to go out and look at that. It'll give you kind of a more in-depth overview of what I've just presented, and a lot of the graphs that I just showed you and the data that we have been collecting is out there for you to look at. We also have a comprehensive list out there that we're actually updating annually. That is a list of insurers that are telling the department that they're writing in wildfire areas in our state. So if you're having difficulty getting insurance, or you've had a notice of non-renewal or cancellation, I encourage you to go out and look at the list that's on our website. We are right now, towards the end of the year, we're in the process of updating that, but go in, it is a comprehensive list. It does have those carriers. We call them, we ask them specific questions, and if they're writing, if they're non-renewing, what they're doing in our state, and that's all published out on the website. We also have a lot of information on mitigation and mitigation measures out there, as well as information on state and federal grants. There's a whole section, and I know that was the session before mine, but if you go out, we actually have some specific grants that we've been notified of that people can go out and apply for. So I encourage you to go out and look at that as well. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was, all of this information that we just talked about. We've been talking with the governor's office, and what can we do to get a little more data, talk to the experts, and like you all in this room, so to determine what needs to be done in our state, so we don't get to that level as some of our neighboring states, or you might have heard even like in Florida, the state that they're in with their hurricanes and things like that. So we decided to set up a Resiliency and Mitigation Council. These will be open meetings, and we're kicking that off next week. The first meeting is December 11th. They're from 1 to 3. They are open meetings. You can either attend in person, or there will be a dial-in option. We will hold these every month, the second Wednesday of every month through next year. During these meetings, we plan to kind of tell a story. We're going to start off, talking about some of the things that I talked about here with you all. What's driving up the costs? What are the problems in the state that we're seeing around not only fires but other natural disasters? And then what we're going to do is bring in experts in the field, and I may be calling on some of you out there that presented to come in and present to the council. The council is made up of, and it tells on the slide, various individuals, mostly from the state. And we want to get this council going, and we want to bring in the experts, and let's collaborate. And what the goal is to come up with some type of report to present to leadership in the state, and let them know, here are what the experts are saying. Here are some solutions. The department, we're not trying to solve this problem. We're trying to work collaboratively with the industry, with the communities, and with the experts. We want them to tell us what the solutions are. And then we plan to write this report, and hopefully from this report, we'll be able to start some positive efforts in the community to solve some of these issues that we're seeing, and hopefully drive down some of the increases that we're seeing, or the non-renewals that we're seeing across our state. So with that, I wanted to open it up for some questions. I know I ran through things rather quickly, but I didn't want to run over time. So these slides will be made available to you. I also have a resource slide here that has information from our website on the grants. It has the homeowner insurance landing page, which has all of the information I said, all of the data that is out there as far as statistics that we went through briefly. Also on that landing page is the list of insurers that are writing in those wildfire areas. And there's information out there regarding the council that's starting up as well. So with that, I'll open it up and take any questions.
Hi, Lori. Thank you for some great information. My question was on the data. When we ground truth, the statistics don't match up. Do you have the ability to parse out, because you identified it by county, the high-risk areas, do you have the ability to parse out those high-risk areas and what premiums are costing in the WUI areas? Because I think you'll see a different statistic.
So that's why that NEIC data call is so important, because with that data call, it is much granular, and we were in looking at the statistics that we have available, which was what was represented on that slide. We know that there's some things that aren't jiving. And so we're hoping when we get that granular data, especially down to that zip code level, that's going to change the view a bit on the map, and especially in those counties where we were seeing some of those percentages.
So I'm gonna do a what if then. So anecdotally, I'll go along with this. We see 30 to 50% increase to property owners in these WUI areas would that change the department's decision then on rates when they're disparaged like that?
Unfortunately, it's not going to allow us to at this point because of the way the statutes read and what authority we have over the rates in the state. But that's something that this council may come back and say, maybe the statute needs to be changed and the department needs to have more authority over rate setting in the state, especially in those for homeowners. So that's something that, you know, I know it's been brought up in new, because I go out and talk across the valley and nationally, and it's come up as far as, you know, why can't you regulate rates? Well, the reason why is because right now the rates are use and file, and basically unless it's considered those three things that I mentioned, there's not any authority that we have past that currently.
Thank you. There's a lot of, I'm on one of those groups that are on your committee, so we are very active legislatively, so you just gave us an edict. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Ampter. I work for Verisk. That was our map, actually, or one of my sister business units generated that map. I have a question which is really simple in my mind, but I'm not sure it'll sound simple. In Arizona, there's other hazards than wildfire. So what % of my premium and everybody's homeowner's premium here is actually dictated by the view of wildfire risk versus other risks? Do you understand my question? It's a question I have all the time.
Yeah, and I get that all the time too. In fact, if you read the white paper that's out there, you know, people think that is all, I get the question is, are California fires driving our premiums as well? And, you know, companies do have to take into effect the catastrophes that are happening nationally, and you know how that's reflected in the rates right now. Again, because of our limited authority, we don't know. We don't get into the extensive modeling and things like that that are taking place in some of these rate filings.
Do you know who does know? Does anybody know?
No, I don't
Across the
think they
industry.
do. And that, again, you know, other than GLM type of rate models that come in that we do send out to an actuary to look at, and again, even those are hard to decipher.
All right, thanks.
Yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I got a question. I've encouraged people to talk to their insurance companies because of the dropping and such. About half the people are very scared to approach their insurance company saying, if I bring it up, they'll just cancel me now. What has been your feelings about what people have said when they've said we talked to the insurance company? Do they get canceled, or does the insurance company say, yeah, we'll keep an eye on you, maybe you could get a decrease?
So I haven't had anyone really tell me they've talked to their agent or their insurance carrier, and that's why one of the things, it's my initiative, is that education piece. I've gone out and I've been talking to realtor associations, I've been talking to agents and brokers, and to the carriers. And in fact, I've actually started, the department, we've started some advisory groups where I'm meeting regularly with carriers and also with the agents, brokers, and wholesalers, just to talk about these issues of education. And, you know, like I said, in today's world, everyone, I think, you know, Google is how you find your insurance. I'd be curious and hear how many of you actually work directly with an insurance company or an agent to get your placements. I'm going to say it's probably not even half the room, because most people, like I said, in today's world, we just Google, we're like, oh, yep, that's good. And to be honest, I find that carrier or insurers don't even know if they are adequately insured, let alone what they need to do. And a lot of the cancellations, or when I'm seeing complaints come into the department about being canceled, is their lack of education around claims. Because, you know, number of claims does affect your premiums and your policy at renewal. And so sometimes there's inadequate claims that are being submitted that the carrier then can say, well, you've had 3 to 5 claims, we're going to increase your premium. So those are things to think about when, you know, you're talking to folks, or when you're looking at your own policy or submitting a claim, is, do I really need to submit this claim, or is it something that, you know, I can take care of? Or your deductibles, that's another resource that you can look at as far as how your premiums are. But there's so many factors that I think it's just the lack of education. So I've been working with the industry to see how we can partner to better educate consumers and just the folks out there who are purchasing insurance better around the products and what they need to do. I've also been talking to industry a lot about mitigation efforts, and, you know, like you said, if you call your company, how they should be able to help you. You shouldn't be afraid to talk to your insurance carrier. They're actually there to assist, and so I think that's a little bit of a misnomer too. And it does, you know, I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, but communication is very important. And I think that the more we can get folks talking and working together, the better it will be going forward. I think there was one question. Did I get all of them? I think there was one.
Right here.
More.
Dari Duval, I'm with the University of Arizona. Thank you for your presentation. I had another question about that PCMI data. I would imagine that the zip code level data is not publicly facing. Is that a fair assumption?
So when that data call comes out and the report comes out, we do publish those on our website. So that information, and like I said, we hope to update, you know, some of those graphs that are out there with that information. So yeah, that's not gonna be secret.
Okay, great. And then in terms of the findings of the analysis that's gonna be undertaken, what's the timeline on that?
For the council reports?
Correct, yeah.
That, we hope to have the report drafted and out, and again, that will be public we're looking right now by the end of 2025, hopefully by November.
Thank you.
We will be holding, like I said, monthly meetings, the second Wednesday of every month. Those will be for about the next 8 months, as we invite experts in to kind of tell the story of what's happening in the state. And so, like I said, I will, coming here actually was prime time because we're just kicking that off, and I was looking at a lot of the presenters here, and I may be calling on you to come and present during some of our councils. Do I have time for one more? Yeah.
I have a
I guess speak loud enough because I'm a teacher. When I'm working with my community where actually statewide recognized, they're doing all the kinds of work that should be done around their homes, especially in the WUI interface. What they're frustrated with is, even if they talk to their carriers, that the carriers say, well, we don't look at that, this is just a policy. And I don't know if your organization is aware of that, has heard complaints about that, but this is what I'm hearing from my homeowners.
Yeah, I have not heard anything on that specifically, but again, you know, I am talking to, I've been out and actually presented in front of county supervisors. In fact, I was here just a few months ago presenting to the Pima County supervisors, and several insurers were there, and I was able to touch base with them, but I didn't hear anything to that.
I don't have a question, but I'm going to add to what she just said because it's a personal story. We are a Firewise. I'm Donna Dalton, and I'm with the Saguaro Hills Estates Firewise community. And just recently, like someone else in here said earlier today, got their mortgage statement that showed that I had a $1,600 increase in my insurance for the year. So I contacted, as you suggested, my insurance carrier, and noted and put on file that we are a Firewise community and designated as a low-risk community on top of it all. And my insurance company did the increase, and I have 6 months before they're going to cancel completely and quit carrying Arizona altogether. So it's a real prevalent problem, and I'm in a low-risk area, so I don't know what these other communities are going to do.
Yeah, so again, that's, you know, we're hoping to hear things like that with this council, and like I said, it's not going to solve everything initially, but maybe we'll be able to work together with industry, consumers, and folks like you all, the fire districts, and come up with some solutions moving forward. But like I said, we're not at a panic situation yet in our state as far as insurance goes. We're not seeing the mass exiting that some of our neighboring states have, so that we're looking at as a positive right now, if there is any. So again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. My contact information is on the slides. I think the slides are going to be available to everyone, so feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. I appreciate it.